Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today, I'm going to go my review of Friday Night Smackdown. Starting off the night, we have Kevin Owens coming out to the ring. Owens has a microphone. He is greeted by Joe Tessitore. Owens says that he will win the Universal title at the Royal Rumble. After that, Owens then takes his title back. After that, he's interrupted by CM Punk. CM Punk comes down to the ring, grabs a microphone. Punk says that if he wins the Rumble, and if Owens somehow beats Cody Rhodes at the Rumble, Punk is coming after Owens. Owens then mocks Punk. Punk then mocks Owens. And both Kevin Owens and CM Punk leave the ring. Interesting stuff there between CM Punk and Kevin Owens. Moving on from that, we go into our first official match of SmackDown. It is Jimmy Uso taking on Carmelo Hayes. I thought it was an okay match. Back and forth matchup between Jimmy and Carmelo, with Carmelo keeping the pace of the match. Carmelo then hits a first 48 on Jimmy Uso for a near fall, but Jimmy hits a roll-up on Carmelo, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Jimmy Uso. Hats off to Jimmy Uso for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's for the Women's U.S. title. It is Michin taking on Chelsea Green. I thought it was a decent match. Back and forth matchup between Michin and Green, with Green keeping the pace of the match. Michin then hits a eat the feet on Chelsea Green, but Green hits Michin with a kendo stick, and the match ends in a disqualification. Moving on from that, we have Damian Priest, SmackDown's newest acquisition. He comes out to the ring, grabs a microphone. Damian talks about debuting on Raw, also winning at one time the World Heavyweight title. But Damian says that was in the past, and we are now in the future. Damian then talks about the Rumble and how he wants to win the Rumble. After that, he's quickly interrupted by Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu comes out to the ring, grabs a microphone, says that himself and Priest are a lot alike. Fatu then sends a warning to Damian Priest. Priest then mocks Fatu. Priest then hits a super kick on Tama. Fatu then looks on. Priest and Fatu then both exchange in the middle of the ring. Fatu and Tama then attack Priest. All of a sudden, LA Knight comes out to the ring. Knight then attacks Fatu and Tama Tonga. Moving on from that, we go to our next match of the night. It's an 8-man tag team matchup. It is Pretty Deadly teaming up with DIY, taking on Los Garza and the Motor City Machine Guns. I thought it was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with Los Garza and Motor City Machine Guns keeping the pace of the match. Sabin ultimately hits a roll-up, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are Los Garza and the Motor City Machine Guns. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's Naomi taking on Liv Morgan. I thought it was a decent match. Back and forth matchup between Naomi and Liv, with Naomi keeping the pace of the match. Morgan then hits a code breaker on Naomi in the middle of the ring. Belair then attacks Raquel ringside, which allowed Naomi to hit a roll-up on Liv Morgan, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Naomi. After the match, though, Liv Morgan and Raquel attack Naomi and Bianca Belair. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Andrade taking on Miz. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Andrade and The Miz, with Andrade keeping the pace of the match. Andrade then hits an acai moonsault to the outside, taking out The Miz. Andrade then goes to the top rope, hits a Spanish fly off the top rope on The Miz. Andrade then hits a devastating spinning back elbow on The Miz in the middle of the ring, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Andrade. Hats off to Andrade for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany Stratton comes down to the ring. She is greeted by Michael Cole in the middle of the ring, as well as Pat McAfee. Tiffany Stratton then grabs a microphone and says that she has always been championship material. After that, she's quickly interrupted by Candice LeRae. LeRae comes out to the ring. She mocks Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany then calls Candice LeRae Nia's sidekick. After that, Nia comes out to the ring, quickly attacks Tiffany Stratton to send a message to Tiffany Stratton. Moving on from that, we go into our main event of Friday Night SmackDown. It is LA Knight teaming up with Damian Priest to take on Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. I thought it was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with Fatu and Tama keeping the pace of the match. Priest, though, hits a choke slam on Tama Tonga, pins for the 3. And your winners of the match are LA Knight and Damian Priest. After the match, Jacob Fatu quickly attacks Damian Priest, sending a message to Damian Priest. A couple of things I want to talk about, man, when it pertains to Friday Night SmackDown before I get the hell up out of here. Was it a solid show? Yeah. Obviously, it's a go-home show for SmackDown leading up into the Royal Rumble, which takes place in Indianapolis. I think it's Lucas Oil Stadium. Obviously, like I said, it's the go-home show. Obviously, they're trying to pretty much button everything up leading up to the Royal Rumble. And to be honest with you, they didn't disappoint. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, having Damian Priest a part of Smackdown, I'm all for it. Because at the end of the day, man, I mentioned this multiple times in the past now, the Judgment Day, for what it once was to what it is now, is slowly starting to come to an end. And you can slowly start to see it unraveling. You see Liv Morgan and Raquel doing her own thing, or doing their own thing. You have Dominic Mysterio still waiting in the mist, if you will, when it pertains to Liv Morgan. You got JD McDonough as well as Carlito. I don't know what happens to JD McDonough as well as Carlito in the midst of the Judgment Day. But to be honest with you, with Damian Priest, leaving, going over to SmackDown, Rhea Ripley now is no longer aligning herself up with the Judgment Day, nor Damian Priest, due to the fact that Rhea is on Raw and Damian Priest is on SmackDown. You can slowly see the unravelment, if you will, of the Judgment Day, which, to be honest with you, there's nothing left for the Judgment Day as a stable to do as a whole, to be honest with you. I think it's time for Finn to do his own thing, go after the Intercontinental title. That would also be very intriguing for Finn. Or actually, the World Heavyweight title for Gunther. Again, also intriguing matches. I wouldn't mind seeing Finn versus Braun Breaker or Finn versus Gunther. Wouldn't mind seeing that at all. So I think it's time for, some of these guys to kind of go their own way. Like I said, I don't really know what would happen with JD McDonough and Carlito. But, obviously Liv's doing her own thing, teaming up with Raquel. Looks like they're going after the WWE Tag Team Women's Champions ships. So, I'm all for that as well. Dominic Mysterio, I think Dom's going to be fine, to be honest with you. I think Dom is one of the biggest heels in the company right now. So, really for Dominic Mysterio, the sky's the limit for him, to be honest with you. He has a very, very high ceiling, in my honest opinion. Obviously he's still very young in the game, so obviously he has a lot of time to develop his craft in the ring, and he can be a force to be reckoned with as well in the next couple of years in WWE. So, I think it benefits all parties for the Judgment Day to actually, split up and do their own thing. But like I mentioned earlier with Damian Priest, man, Priest being on SmackDown, I'm all for it. And to be honest with you, I already kind of, in my head, I kind of thought about, what would be a great match for Damian Priest. Now, I don't know if there's going to be something here between Jacob Fatu and Damian Priest. It looks like that might actually happen. My first initial thought when they brought in Priest was the wild card being Malachi Black. I know Malachi, it looks as if Malachi Black is leaving AEW and possibly on his way back over to WWE. And I thought, what better way to bring in Malachi Black, bring him into SmackDown. Obviously, Zelina is now a part of the SmackDown roster as well. To bring Malachi Black into SmackDown, have him come back as Aleister Black, and have him have a storyline there with Damian Priest. I think it sets it up perfectly. Obviously, Damian Priest comes in with, that Judgment Day, that, rock star mentality, if you will, and then you have, Aleister Black coming in. If you guys remember how Aleister Black was before he had left WWE, he came in, in as this dark minister kind of character, if you will. So, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with both Damian Priest, and if Aleister Black were to come into SmackDown, I think both those guys can kind of play off each other very well within segments or in the ring. So, I was all for that as well. And it could very much happen. I don't know. I don't think, Malachi Black is staying with AEW. I think at this point it looks like he's on his way back to WWE, considering the fact that, Brody King and Buddy Matthews go as the Hellhounds now. So it looks like he's possibly on his way over to WWE. So I just thought, for me, if I had to write, a storyline or a match, it would be a perfect matchup between Damian Priest, welcoming back, if you will, Aleister Black. I think that would be a great matchup between both those guys. But like I said, man, SmackDown wasn't that bad. It really wasn't. Obviously, like I said earlier, they're trying to button everything up leading up to the Royal Rumble. When it pertains to Cody and Kevin Owens, you had Kevin Owens come out in the beginning of the show to open the show. He cuts a promo on Cody Rhodes. He talks about the Royal Rumble. He also mocks Joe Tessitore. And then he grabs his Winged Eagle Championship back. That way he has it for the Royal Rumble. So I thought that was interesting stuff as well. But it's just everything pretty much leading up to the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble, to me, is one of the best pay-per-views or PLEs that WWE has. It's definitely my top 5, within my top 5 pay-per-views at WWE, or at least top 4. It's just a memorable PLE. It's always has, debuts or returns or just memorable moments alone for the Royal Rumble. So I know the Royal Rumble is going to be absolutely incredible this year around. So, yeah, man, I mean, for what it's worth, like I said, I don't think SmackDown was that bad. We saw Tiffany Stratton. She cuts a promo in the middle of the ring talking about Nia Jax, talking about the Rumble. And then she gets attacked by Candice LeRae as well as Nia Jax. So it looks like Nia Jax has some unfinished business with Tiffany Stratton. Obviously, the main event, LA Knight teaming up with Damian Priest, taking on Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. I mean, I said this multiple times about Jacob Fatu, man. Jacob Fatu has been the best free agent signing that WWE has had in a while, to be honest with you. That guy is a beast, bro. That guy is a machine. And to be honest with you, I think he's what? Like I said, 6'3", 265, 270, 280. Doing that springboard moonsault off the top rope with a guy, the size of a guy that stature. I mean, he's an incredible athlete, bro. Incredible athlete. And he's going to be a future world champion. I think SmackDown, we're slowly starting to see SmackDown pushing Jacob Fatu to the moon, to be honest with you. They just filed a trademark for him with the Tribal Wolf. I'm all for it, man. And the crazy thing is, too, you got to look at the narrative, man. We have not seen Solo Sikoa in a while. And he really hasn't said anything since he lost to Ulafala to Roman Reigns, where Roman once again became the tribal chief, if you will. So we haven't heard any kind of rebuttal from Solo Sikoa at all since that debut episode of Raw on Netflix, as far as I'm concerned. So, and then seeing what Jacob Fatu's doing right now with Tama Tonga, I don't know if Solo's going to come back and have some words here with, Jacob Fatu telling, hey, you don't run the show here, I do. You know what I mean? And there might be a little beef there between Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu, which, again, I'm all for. I would love to see Fatu versus Sikoa because it's one match that we have not seen yet due to the fact that Jacob Fatu has kind of been Solo Sikoa's enforcer for the longest time with the Bloodline. So, I'm all for that as well. And we could possibly get that matchup at WrestleMania, Elimination Chamber. I mean, that also could very well happen. But for as far as Jacob Fatu, man, that guy has future world champion written all over him, to be honest with you. And I think it was a great acquisition that SmackDown got, or WWE got with Jacob Fatu. Obviously, he made a big name for himself on the Indies and working with MLW for a long time. So, he's just a beast, man. He's a force to be reckoned with within that division, within all of WWE. And he's got future world champion written all over him, man. And it's great to see, to be honest with you. But I still believe he's one of the best free agents that WWE has signed over the past couple years, to be honest with you. And it seems to me that, WWE and Triple H are willing to push Jacob Fatu to the moon. They see a lot of potential in Fatu, and rightfully so, man. I mean, this guy came in and just, decimated people, man. He was, like I said, a force to be reckoned with, man. He didn't give two shits how anybody felt, and he wanted to come in and make a big impact, and he did. Absolutely. And there's still a lot of great matches on the table for Jacob Fatu, and obviously, Jacob Fatu is going to be on the main event scene for SmackDown for quite a while. He's a household name. Obviously he draws in a lot of money for SmackDown. A lot of people want to see Jacob Fatu, and like I said, man, they're doing a hell of a job with him as of late, especially with this whole storyline with the Bloodline and everything else like that. He just done a great job presenting to the fans of what Jacob Fatu can do in that ring. The other thing I want to talk about too, obviously, like I said, with Damian Priest coming in, we see LA Knight, we see Tiffany Stratton. But again, Kevin Owens, man. Kevin Owens coming out in the beginning of the show. That match between him and Cody Rhodes is going to be an absolute banger. An absolute banger. And to be honest with you, it's nostalgia. For me, this whole match between Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens has nostalgia written all over it. And the reason why I'm saying that is because if you look at the match and you look at the history between Owens and Rhodes, close friends, bitter enemies. We're having a ladder match to decide who is the, undisputed Universal Championship. This goes right back to, in my mind, WrestleMania 10. Now, if you guys don't know WrestleMania 10, it was one of my favorite WrestleManias of all time. From the theme song to the matches, it's definitely one of my top WrestleManias of all time, in my opinion. Might be a hot take for most people, but WrestleMania 10 was always one of my favorite pay-per-views. But, you look at the matchup, and, you look at how Shawn, and I believe this was WrestleMania 10. This was Shawn Michaels taking on Razor Ramon to crown the undisputed Intercontinental Champion. When Shawn left, Razor came in, he became, won the Intercontinental Championship, and Shawn was still waiting in the balance. Shawn comes back, and now we got to decide, well, who is the rightful Intercontinental Champion? So we have two Intercontinental Championships hanging above the ring in a ladder match, the first ever ladder match in WrestleMania history between Shawn Michaels and the bad guy Razor Ramon. And to be honest with you, it was one of the greatest ladder matches I've ever seen. One of them. And it was just a historic match, man. It was a great match. Those two guys tore the house down. Rest in peace to Razor Ramon as well. And I believe Razor Ramon was actually victorious in that matchup. And he was crowned the pretty much the undisputed Intercontinental Champion. He held up the both titles, and he won that matchup. And Shawn put Razor over. And it was a great match, man. It was a memorable moment. And like I said, it was the first ladder match that we ever got, ever, in WrestleMania up to that point. That was the first ever ladder match that we ever got. And it was just a great match. And then we look at Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens now, and it's almost like the embodiment of that matchup. And here we are getting it. We got it then, and now we're getting it now. And I'm not sitting here saying that both Cody Rhodes or Kevin Owens is compared to a Shawn Michaels or Razor Ramon. But what I'm saying to you, storyline-wise, and the way they're setting this matchup, the crown, the undisputed Universal Champion, has a lot of nostalgia towards what happened between Shawn and Razor at WrestleMania. So, to me, I'm all for this. I mean, the match writes itself. And by the way, man, Cody Rhodes, and I say this every single time that we see Cody on Smackdown or Raw or just see him in WWE in general. You want to talk about someone dropping the ball with Cody Rhodes, man. AEW dropped the ball with this guy. It's got to be a gut punch every time that, Cody Rhodes comes out for a SmackDown event or for Monday Night Raw. It's got to be a gut punch to a guy like Tony Khan. It has to be. Because I'm telling you right now, man, this guy, Cody Rhodes, is carrying this company on his fucking back. And he is a company guy. He's got the John Cena schedule where he's doing all these interviews and these post-interviews at the Raw and SmackDown. He's doing all these interviews to hype up these PLEs. I mean, this guy has a full-time schedule on his plate. And he's carrying this company on his back. And he's a company guy, man. And to me, what better way or what better person to have to represent your company than a guy like Cody Rhodes? And Cody Rhodes, he's done a phenomenal job with that Universal title, to be honest with you. And the biggest question is if Cody does somehow successfully beat Kevin Owens, what's next for Cody? Who's going to challenge Cody Rhodes next? Whoever wins the Rumble, are they going to challenge Cody Rhodes? Or are they going to challenge Gunther for the World Heavyweight title? So, I mean, it's really one of those things where it's up in the arms of what's going to happen here. And a lot of it comes down to be honest with you, the Royal Rumble. That's one of the best things about the Rumble, because the winners of the Rumble matches, whether it's the men or the women, they challenge whatever belt they want, and they will be in the main event for WrestleMania. That's why Royal Rumble is so synonymous in professional wrestling, because it has some of the most important matches on that card. The Rumble alone is important because that creates legends, to be honest with you. And you get a main event spot at WrestleMania for both men and or women. They pick the respected titles that they want to go after at WrestleMania in the main event. And WrestleMania is 2 nights, man. You got night 1 and night 2. So again, like I said, man, a lot of it obviously SmackDown and Raw this past week. A lot of it has a lot of build up and lead up towards obviously the Royal Rumble, and I think both Raw and SmackDown hit a home run. Obviously a lot of build up towards around Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes for the undisputed Universal Championship matchup. The ladder match is going to take place at the Rumble, and like I said, man, Jacob Fatu. Fatu is literally running SmackDown by himself, and he's doing a fantastic job by doing so. But with that being said, this is my review of Friday Night SmackDown. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.